Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Running the Bases. This is a very special edition tonight where I am going to be doing the very first Mets game recap. This is August 12th. As you can see on the bottom, this is the Mets game recap for tonight. The Mets had themselves a pretty good game tonight. Obviously, it was a very, very big game after the Mets have lost two in a row. They've been really trying to get back into the swing of things. They were 4 games under 500 entering the game tonight. And tonight it was a big game for the Mets to be able to win. And obviously they had to put all of their chips in. They really wanted to get it. And as you can see right there, the final score in tonight's game was Mets 11, Nationals 6. Obviously a big opportunity for the Mets to get back on track. They are now 3 games under 500 with their win tonight. It is a big opportunity for the Mets to start something. They will enter their final game of the 4-game set tomorrow as they will try and salvage this series and make it 2 apiece. And then they're going to start a series against the Philadelphia Phillies. So tomorrow's going to be a pretty big game. And in this recap, I'm going to go over the game. And then I'm also going to do a preview for tomorrow's game. And then we're going to obviously just talk about a little bit of how tonight went down and, the future for the Mets today. So looking at tonight's game, this was a big game from the very beginning. The Nationals were off to a 3-0 start thanks to a Juan Soto 3-run homer, but the Mets came right back in that first inning, scored 4 runs in the first, made it 4-3. They then tacked on another run in the third, made it 5-3, and then in the sixth, at the end of the sixth inning, it was a 10-4 score. They ended up winning 11-6, as you can see on screen right here. So a very big win for the Mets. And these scorers, you obviously want to know, who those scorers were. And the big scorers in this game were guys that you would expect to be doing it. Juan Soto, like I said, led off the game with a 3-run homer. Brandon Nimmo then got the Mets started off in the bottom of the first with a solo shot. Pete Alonso continued to get a double, drove in some runs. And the first inning was just a good piecing together of hits. Really, nobody really got that big bomb that you would expect to see in big innings like that. But then on the top of the sixth, Juan Soto homered again, made it 5-4 New York Mets. But then in this bottom of the sixth inning, that is when the Mets started taking off. Pete Alonso hit a 2-run homer. Michael Conforto drove in 2 runs on a double. Mets had Pete Alonso and Dominic Smith hitting back-to-back home runs tonight. Just an all-around exciting game. And then the best part of it, honestly, was the pitching staff. The pitching was able to get through tonight's game and do very, very well. The starter, Robert Gsellman, in his first start since 2017, went 2 innings. He was only going to be getting 40 pitches in tonight's game. He gave up 3 runs, but he definitely looked promising as he is now going to be the starter in that spot for the Mets tonight. That is going to be exciting to see him pitching a little bit more. Obviously, the Mets had to, though, throw out a lot of relievers in tonight's game. Chasen Shreve, Juris Familia, Justin Wilson, Dellin Betances, Drew Smith, and Brad Brock all combined to only allow 3 runs in the final 7 innings of the game tonight. So that is obviously a really big thing for the Mets. So let's take a look at the box score here. Looking at every single Met, Brandon Nimmo went 3 for 5 tonight with 1 RBI. He left 4 men on base, but obviously you can't really complain about a 3 for 5 night, especially with the home run. He is now batting .250 on the season. Was off to a pretty hot start, but he has cooled off just a little bit. J.D. Davis, though, had himself a really rough night. He had a hat trick in strikeouts by striking out 3 times, went 0 for 5. He has been hitting better as of late, which is why his after an 0 for 5 days batting average is still 300, but he's going to have to pick that up in these next few days. Just can't let that one bad game get in his way. Then in the 3 spot in this lineup, Jeff McNeil also going 0 for 5. Only struck out once. He left 3 on the bases. He's now batting .293. He was up over 300 a few days ago, so disappointing to see him drop down. But Michael Conforto continues his success, going 2 for 3 tonight. He is now batting .324 on the season, and he also drove in 2 runs. A big game for him. Pete Alonso, 3 for 4. He is who I'm naming the player of the game tonight. Such an amazing opportunity for Pete to get back on track. He has really been hot lately. He has gotten his batting average up to .229. Now, don't laugh at that because he was batting in the middle of the 100s for a very long time. He's gotten that average up a lot. Going 3 for 4 tonight, that big 2-run homer is something to talk about. And obviously, he had some really good swings in tonight's game, which gives a lot of hope to the Mets fans for the upcoming few games and obviously for the rest of the season. Dominic Smith also had a good game behind Alonso. He went 2 for 4, drove in 3 runs as well, and he was overshadowed by Alonso, but he is having a sneaky start to the season, batting 243, yes, but he is still looking very good. Then after him, we had Andres Jimenez, who has been a little bit sluggish in the last few games. He's gotten his batting average down now to 283, did strike out twice tonight in a 1-for-5 effort. Then in the 8 hole, we had Wilson Ramos, who had a big hit early on in the game with a runner in scoring position to drive in a run. He is now batting 196. Still, though, really not the batting average that Wilson Ramos wants to have. And then Luis Guillorme batting 9th. He keeps doing it defensively. Him and Jimenez up the middle are hitting their stride up the middle of that diamond. And obviously Guillorme just getting playing time with Robinson Cano out. So for him, he is now hitting 333 this season. He went 1 for 2 tonight with 2 walks. So a pretty good game for him. His OPS is up to 817. That is really high in this lineup. So good for him. He has been looking solid. Then you look at the pitching staff. I already gave you Robert Gazelman's lines. We saw Chasen Shreve pitch 1 inning with 1 hit and nobody else scored. Juris Familia, though, a very big sign, came in tonight, pitched 2 innings, only allowed 1 base runner. I'm sorry, he allowed 2 base runners. He gave up a hit and a walk, but he struck out 4 batters. He's gotten that ERA down to 4.32 after a few really difficult outings. Then we saw Justin Wilson come out, and he had a solid inning, but he did give up a home run, which was difficult. Obviously, though, he was able to get through it after that, even though he gave up just that 1 hit. Dellin Betances came in, struck out the side, which is a phenomenal outing for him. He's been needing to get that kind of inning going, so great for him. He needed that. Drew Smith came in. He as well gave up a home run and 2 hits, but he was also fairly dominant, struck out Howie Kendrick with a big spot, and he was able to get through that as well. So he fought through it. I mean, he's got a very bright future with this Mets pitching staff, I've got to believe. I mean, he looks really good, and he has been able to pitch very well. And then closing out the game was Brad Brock. Did give up a home run to Kurt Suzuki, who was robbed of a home run earlier in the game, but it doesn't change the fact that Brock looked solid as well in his first game back. So the Mets are looking to continue that dominance. And like I said before, your player of the game is going to be Pete Alonso. When he went 3 for 4 tonight, it really makes Mets fans say, boy, this is a big opportunity for the Mets. This is their main player. When you look at the Mets, you think of Pete Alonso, and when Pete Alonso's not hitting, the Mets fans just don't feel it. But tonight felt a little bit different. Pete was hitting the ball very well. He has now 10 RBIs on the season, so I feel really good for him. I mean, this is a big sign, a very positive sign to see him swinging the bat so well. 2 doubles in tonight's game, so it's not like he had 2 soft singles and a home run. He had a big deep home run and 2 very well hit doubles. So Pete Alonso has looked good in the last couple of games. I'll give you his last 2 game statistics. Obviously, against the Nationals last night, he went 0 for 1 in a pinch hitting appearance, and then he also was able to go 1 for 4 in his game before. So his last few games aren't doing too well, but before that, he had seemingly started to pick it up a little bit. But tonight is the big breakthrough that I think Alonso has been looking for. So good for him. He obviously is the key to this Mets offense. If he can start hitting, then the Mets can as well. And I think the bigger thing to keep in mind tonight is that the Mets did so well with runners in scoring position. This is the best opportunities the Mets have come through with here in a game this season. They went 5 for 13 with runners in scoring position. They still left 8 men on base, but it doesn't really matter because they still were able to drive in 5 guys. They had 5 hits with runners in scoring position tonight, something that they have just not done at all this year. So that is another big key factor that people aren't really thinking about in tonight's game, that the Mets drove in those runs with people in scoring position, and Pete Alonso was a big part of that. And with those 2 things working right, I said it in the podcast this morning that if the Mets can start driving in those runs that they've had on base, then they are going to be able to start winning. And that is the key factor here in tonight's game. So obviously, whenever you see that starting to happen, you really start to feel good. I mean, you look at these numbers, the Mets have the 3rd highest coming into tonight, the 3rd highest batting average in Major League Baseball at 257. The home run numbers haven't really been there, but and neither of their RBIs. But you also look at the on-base percentage. The Mets are tied for 2nd in baseball on-base percentage with 345, only 2 thousandths of a point down from first place in that category. And then their slugging is not really there either because they're not hitting those home runs. But, you take a look at the OBP with the Mets being so high up there, for them to not be scoring those runs, I mean, that is just killer. I'm going to take a look. The Mets are in 10th in baseball in runs with 82. I'm sorry, 16th in baseball with 82. There were a few ties in there that confused me. But 16th in baseball, that can't happen when you're having the 2nd highest on base percentage in the game. So for the Mets, a good game tonight. Obviously, they look towards tomorrow where it will be David Peterson versus Austin Voth. This is going to be a big game for the Mets tomorrow. Two young pitchers that are going to be trying to battle their way to a big win for their team. Austin Voth 0-1 with a 1.8 ERA, and David Peterson 2-1 with a 3.78. So both of these guys are going to be fighting for their team and are going to be fighting for a big win at the end of the series. If the Nationals win, then they will take the series win 3 out of 4 games. And if David Peterson and the Mets get the win tomorrow, then the Mets will split the series and the Mets will be back to 2 games under 500, entering a key Phillies series. So hope you guys enjoyed this very first Mets recap. I'm hoping to be doing these a lot more. Obviously, with the Mets getting the opportunity to play every day, and now I'm going to be, after we've scrapped the team recap in the podcast, it's obviously a big opportunity for me and everyone else to talk about our own teams in a separate video so that we're not wasting too much time in the actual show. So thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. I had a lot